Hey guys, welcome back to the show. This is Surviving the Badge here at the Surviving the Badge bar, cop bar, talking cop shit. So listen, we're going to get into a little subject here that I may get a little loud on. I may get a little angry, a little wild. I don't know. We'll see how it goes here.
Is it about your sexual dysfunction?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about police admin and the way they are handcuffing the law enforcement officers out here in America, as well as the administrations in this country. And it's really a topic that hits home. I just spoke to a guy at the gym yesterday who is a second generation law enforcement officer, and I worked with his dad, and he works for a major metropolitan agency in Florida. And I was telling him, about our show, and he says, yeah, he is. My dad told me, he said, I've been watching a little bit when I can. And I said, here's one of the topics we're going to cover. And he goes, oh, thank God, man. And he said, because no matter where you work, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's not all agencies, okay? And we'll go into that in just a minute. Stick around. You're going to want to see this, and we're going to want some input from you guys, because a lot of our watchers and our subscribers are law enforcement. When I spoke to Camille about this and going over this, he's like, hey, let's do it. So my biggest thing is out here, and let me just say this right at the beginning. Sean's with us. He's our special guest.
Sean.
And he is currently in law enforcement. And I can truly, honestly say, and I voted for the guy, that the sheriff that he works for is doing one hellacious freaking great job with that sheriff's office. Sean thinks the world of him, and I'm not just saying that because he's sitting here and he's on the show. I think the guy is absolutely kick-ass. He tells it like it is. He has his guys back when they're right, and when they're wrong, he gets rid of their ass, like they should. But so many agencies, that's not happening. That it is just not happening.
Can I add something? So
Absolutely.
I know Sean's boss also. He comes to our school and talks to our students every year.
Yes.
He
as well as my daughters too.
He's amazing. He really is involved in the community, and I don't have a bad thing to say about him.
I don't either. I didn't. When he first became sheriff, I guess it's the Southern boy in me.
Oh yeah, he's from what? Philly.
Yeah. Philly. I kind of didn't like his northern accent, and and this and that. I thought he was kind of a smart ass. But man, the more and more I watch this guy and I hear about what he's doing, I'm like, hell, this guy is freaking jam up. He really is.
And it just goes to show.
He's right up there with Grady Judd and all the guys we love, man.
How awesome our Florida sheriffs are, and he's on there just what?
He is. He's right up at the top, in the top 5. You work for him.
Yeah.
Be honest.
Absolutely. I like and remember, I think the first sheriff I saw that kind of really embraced that was Kevin Barry.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I remember Kevin Barry. Yeah.
Yes, I worked for his brother. We worked for his brother.
Kevin Barry told you how it was.
Yep.
If his guys were wrong, he'd raise his hand and tell you he was wrong. He'd pull those guys in and he would straighten them up.
Or arrest them if need be, or whatever.
Whatever it takes. And we're fortunate that we're experiencing the same thing.
You are fortunate.
We are expected to do the right thing. Obviously, we operate within the parameters of our policy and our and the state statutes. When we're wrong, he holds us accountable.
Yep. As he should.
As he should. Yeah.
But he provides us with the training. He provides us with the support that when we go out on the road and we go out to do our job, we're not fearful of administration. That's not one of the things that we're thinking about as we're completing the task.
And I'm glad you said that, because that is my exact reason for having this conversation tonight. Is so many officers, and I'm going to tell you right now, Officer Rayner with Daytona Beach was a victim of this new society where we're going to hug a thug and be nice to everybody and give them a freaking mile and let them get away with murder and everything else. And Officer Rayner, look the case up. We did a story on it, and I covered this back then, but Officer Rayner with Daytona Beach, you can see from the instant that he made contact with the suspect that ended up killing him that he was over nice. He was giving him a freaking mile. He let him get right up next to him. He let him get right in between the door and him and was, well, sir, well, sir, well, sir. And the guy ended up taking his gun and killing him. And I'm telling you, it happens out here in America more times than you folks realize what's going on and why this officer died and why this officer was killed. I would say a vast majority of those deaths are due to the officers scared to death to pull their damn gun or grab a MFer and throw them on the ground when they need to be thrown on the ground because they're resisting and fighting and whatever else because they're afraid their administration's going to fire them.
And some agencies, some cities have even gotten rid of stop and frisk. How many of these scumbags have guns and stop and frisk? You check them, you got a gun, you got an arrest, at least you're alive. You're dealing with somebody you don't know who's armed, and you're dealing with and you can't do anything about it. You just have to talk to them. Bullshit.
The next thing you know, they'll be doing away with traffic stops except for a major incident or a major like traffic infraction, like over 20 miles an hour over the speed limit or ran a regular red light. There won't be any more traffic stops for, whatever, for running a stop sign or for, going 12 over, 13, 14 over, whatever. They'll just do away with that. If this shit keeps up, thank God the administration at the head now has reverted back to where it was. And I'm talking about Donald Trump.
Law enforcement.
Look, I know the guy's an asshole, okay? I agree. He is an asshole. But
he
believes in freaking law and order, even though he's a convicted felon.
Yeah.
He believes in law and order, and he supports law enforcement and the job they do, whereas the last couple of administrations, we didn't have that.
I'm
you
glad
saw
you brought
it.
that up because I think that's important to look at. When you become a head of a police agency, that's not like you just put in an application like, oh, gee whiz, I was working at Publix last week, but I feel like I could be a chief of the police, so I'm going to put in an application.
Right, or sheriff, yeah.
These are career law enforcement people who have come through the system, who know what it was like when they started and know what it's like in the middle and know what it's like in the twilight of a career that fall victim to political pressures.
They really do. And the sheriffs are a little better off only because they are elected by the people. Whereas police chiefs, I would say probably 98% of them are appointed by some kind of governing body like a city commission, city manager, mayor, whatever. They're appointed and they serve at the pleasure of that freaking administration. And at any time they can say, we don't like your politics. See ya.
Yeah,
you're gone.
And with the sheriff, they can do whatever they want, and if the people love what he's doing, his law and order, guess who's going to be voted in time and time again?
Totally agree, 100%.
Sheriffs probably are, because there's no term limit in Florida for sheriffs, right?
So sheriffs can continue to run, and as long as the people will elect them, they can continue to be elected.
Yep.
We've had sheriffs who've run the gamut who go 16 years, 20 years. Even longer here in Florida.
I agree.
Because we got sheriffs that kick ass and, kick butt and take names.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Support of the public.
However, if you're not that guy and you're not strong and you're not only holding your people accountable, but also being enforcing the law and serving the people's needs, if you're not doing that, you're not going to get elected.
I agree.
Right. Or even in a worst case scenario, Israel down in, Palm Beach, who the governor removed because he didn't do anything for that school shooting. The guy who kept having threats and getting, all the crimes. And so the governor says, you're a bad sheriff. You're gone.
Yeah, and he can do that. He's the only one that can remove them.
Absolutely.
I think we have all experienced what I call working without a net.
Yes. Oh, man.
You get a supervisor, like you feel comfortable in your own skills and abilities, but it's always comfortable to have that supervisor behind you who goes, no, the guy's right. Or if you do make a mistake, go, hey, wait a minute, he was tracking right. He just made a mistake here.
Right.
And I call that working with a net. But when you have an incompetent leader, whether it be at the highest level of the administration or even people even lower.
I agree.
One of the things our sheriff says is he can overcome a bad lieutenant, but he couldn't overcome a bad sergeant because the sergeant has the masses behind them.
And he's right there every day.
So
He or she's right there every day with the people.
So having worked in situations where I had worked with people who I just didn't feel confident in their skills and abilities, but they were a supervisor, doesn't make it easy to go in and do your job.
No, it doesn't.
Second guess everything.
Because you look at those people for guidance when you need it. And you're like, hey, Sarge, we're going to be doing this or we're going to be doing that. What do you think about this? I've never really done that before. And if they don't have a freaking clue, then it's like,
or if they belittle you or don't use this as an opportunity to educate, and you're the sergeant, you are in charge of that squad. You know what? Let me take this opportunity to educate my officer, and then he'll be a better officer.
And here's the worst. The freaking micromanager.
Right.
The guy or gal that follows every officer and it's worse in the smaller agencies like where we came from, follows them to every freaking call or listens on the radio and not even at the call to know what the hell is going on scene. But as soon as you get a second, they're freaking calling you. You got a captain or somebody call. Hey, give me a call. Call me on the radio or call me on the phone. You call them. Why is he here? Why is he there? Why is he there? I'm like, dude, you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
I sent him over there or her over there because they weren't needed here, but I needed him over there.
Trust your people. You got to be able to trust your people.
Those are the worst, or the micromanagers.
I don't know if you ever received a phone call at 3:00 in the morning from a lieutenant who apparently rolled over but has his computer by the side of their bed and who says, hey, I noticed that such and such zone unit has had no activity for the last 57 minutes. What's he doing? And I go,
oh my God.
I go, hey, not for nothing. What time is it? Oh, it's 2:57. You're about 3 minutes early. If you listen to your radio, he's going to call out with the open door at the church, just the same one he finds every night.
Right.
But he's going to be doing something, and I can hold my people accountable. I don't need you to roll over in bed in the middle of the night to tell me what
Unbelievable.
to do.
So there's a guy.
If there's a pattern where the sergeant is not checking on their people and their people are running amok, then deal with the sergeant and deal with it. Don't just micromanage him and every other sergeant. Deal with the damn problem. Go ahead. Sorry.
So there's a guy, his name's Simon Sinek, and he talks about leadership and the qualities of leadership. And the best leaders make their people feel safe. Like with 100%. The net.
Safety net. That was a great vernacular, absolutely.
There's a TED talk on him, and he talks about how it's not just law enforcement, it's every kind of corporation. If you feel safe in a company, an agency, you're going to go above and beyond. You're going to do everything for that person. But if you think that your job is on the line, if you think you're being watched all the time, then you're not going to have... It's going to be a crappy experience.
And I don't know if you ever heard my dad say this because you worked for my dad for a while, but it got to the point where it was so bad that a lot of the cops where we used to work, and I'm talking a long time ago, but it's there now. Big cases, big problems. Little cases, little problems. No cases, no problems. So what that means, guys and gals, is... I'm not going to do a damn thing unless I absolutely have to and I get called to the scene, because as long as I'm not doing anything, they can't chew my ass and be all over me and tell me I've done something wrong and cause me grief. And it happens, and it's a bad culture. It is a disease as bad as cancer in an agency when that shit starts happening.
I worked a case when I was an agent. We went all the way down to Miami on this major fraud and all of this. And we were about, and you know how when you're in a case, you're rolling and you want to go and you want to go. So we contacted the local supervisor down there and we said, hey, we want to hit this house. We want to get a search warrant. He's like, yeah, you know what? Why don't we step back?
Because he didn't want the heat.
Exactly.
He didn't want to take any responsibility.
He didn't want to get out of bed at 8 or come out of his house at 8:00 at night and join us and get this shit done.
Yeah.
So it just went away.
Big cases.
He was probably having a beer moment. He was probably having a beer moment.
Yeah, he probably was.
And we were freaking 5 hours out of our area working this case, actively working shit, trying to shake doors and do shit.
I'm glad you said that because we were a little late on our beer moment.
Great segue.
Yeah. So our beer moment tonight is brought to you by our sponsors. What are we drinking tonight, Camille?
We are drinking Mango Cart. It's a wheat beer that has mango in it. And I love the fact that it actually tastes like mango. I wouldn't bite a mango, but it has, and it's not a sour, which is nice, and has a really good flavor. It's refreshing.
I love it.
I was hoping to get a nice dark beer that I could cut into and eat, but we got this anyway. I don't know what I said earlier. You know how sometimes it's like a throwback. We did it earlier and we're like, we liked it. Let's do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Give everybody a chance to see it,
right.
in case I didn't see those shows.
Exactly. I'm going to say 7.5.
Even the second time, it's as good as the first. I have no complaints. I'm gonna give it an extra. I'm gonna give it 8.75 this time. I think last time I went a little lower, but the more I drink it, the more I like it.
I'm with you. I'm gonna up mine to a 9. I think I gave it 8.75 last time. It's one of my absolute freaking favorites. Love it. These are brought to you by our sponsors, and we thank you very, very much. And here's a word from them. Contact Mainstreet Realty for all your real estate needs. This power team includes Tom Clem, a veteran Marine and retired law enforcement professional. All right, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. So just in the final words here, I just wanted to say, guys, we hear you. I get texts all the time from folks that are still working and are saying, Jesus, LT, what do I do? They're all over me on this, they're all over me on that. I can't take it anymore. And I'm just like, how much longer you got till you can get the hell out, because they can't quit. They're 18, 15, 16 years in, or even 10 years in. You can't quit unless you're very, very young and go to another agency and start all over. Because guys, in this area, unless your agency happened to be in state retirement, you can't carry that over.
Yeah.
And you can usually only buy back up to 3 years. So you're kind of screwed if you change agencies unless you're on state and you go to state. But any final words?
Yeah. So nothing lasts forever. Stick it out.
Yeah.
The first chief, when I worked for our agency, he was and this is not a new phenomenon.
The whack job.
Yeah. There's been shitty chiefs forever. We had this whack job and we got rid of him. Nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, thank God there were a few people like my dad and Jim McDonnell and a few others that finally went to the commissioners and said, this guy is a wacko and we can't work for him anymore. Half the agency's quitting.
Every agency in the state of Florida had semi-automatic handguns. We still had revolvers.
Yep.
No asp, no spray, nothing, no training. It was a disaster, but it didn't last forever. So sometimes you got to stick it out.
Stick it out. And that's what I keep telling these people. Stick it out. Keep your nose clean. Do your job. Do the best job you know how to do. Don't back down as long as you're within policy and within law. Don't back down. Go out there and do your job. And I said they cannot write you up or find you guilty of any kind of violations if you're within policy and the law.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up, I happen to be our union vice president.
There you go.
But that is also a strong point in balancing all of this out. Not going to battle and bashing heads with administration, but working collaboratively, which is what we were able to do in our agency, which is where we feel we have that support now.
Yes.
We work together collaboratively as a union and as an administration to make policies, hold people accountable, and support one another. And our union helps support our administration and vice versa. And it's working great. That's not something that happens everywhere.
No,
But
it's not.
In areas where it's not happening, that's all the more important reason to have strong union representation for what that's worth. And
It is. And unfortunately, in the state of Florida, it's a right to work state. So, if it's over pay or something else or benefits or whatever, it can go to a special master. It can go to everything it wants to go to. And they can all agree with all the cops. But the final decision comes down to the city or the county council and whether they approve it or not, because it's a right to work state. So the union, as far as benefits and stuff like that go, only have so much teeth. But as far as protecting the officer's ass when they're being freaking written up or investigated for crap they didn't do or illegally, oh, they're the best, man. They are the greatest to have around. They really are. I started carrying a union card about the 5th year into law enforcement, carried it for 30 years, paid my dues every month, and always had an attorney right there on the phone.
Yep,
If I
absolutely.
needed it, you know.
So I want to talk about the fallen officers. It's a brand new year.
Yes, please do.
So right now we have 2 fallen officers as of the beginning of the year. When I look today, unfortunately, well, we'd have 2. We should always have 0, but they're both vehicle related. One is a motorcycle accident. One is an officer who was hit by a car while he was directing traffic. So, as always, firearms and vehicles are always number 1 and number 2 when it comes to fallen officers. So please be careful out there. And we want to salute the officers who have fallen this year.
God bless. God bless. And please be with their families too. Well, I don't have anything else, guys, unless you guys got a little bit something you want to add. I am done with my rant. It wasn't as loud and as obnoxious as I thought it was going to be. But this is a subject that we're going to continue to cover and go through as other stuff comes out and comes to light. If you know of an instance or a situation or whatever, an agency that is just absolutely outrageously screwing with the cops,
like Chicago PD that doesn't even let you do a foot pursuit,
right? Please let us know, because you know what, I would be more than happy to announce the agency on here and put it out all over every media that we have,
especially if it's Sean's,
and and embarrass the absolute hell out of them, because cops shouldn't have to put up with that shit. Right? They really shouldn't. So anyway, just remember, guys, at Surviving the Badge,
we still
got your 6. Salute. Be careful out there.